Torah tells us in the beginning of Chayei Sarah that Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah, which is 100 years, 20 years, 7 years, Sarah B'Kiras Arba, and Sarah passes on. She passes on in Kiras Arba. He Chevron. She passes on and she dies in Kiras Arba, which is Chevron. And then it says, Vayave Avram lispoid l'Sara l'b'chaysa. And Avram comes to eulogize and to wail, to cry for Sarah. So where's Avram coming from? What does it mean that Avram is coming? Vayave Avram is coming from. Seems like Sarah and Avram are now separate. They're in separate locations. So Rashi in the classic commentary writes that Sarah is coming from Be'er-sheva. Avram is coming from Be'er-sheva. Avram is coming from Be'er-sheva. Be'er-sheva is the place where they lived. How do we know it's the place where they lived? Because after the story of the Akedah, it says that Avram returns to Be'er-sheva. He returns back to Be'er-sheva. So Avram is in Be'er-sheva. And he's coming from Be'er-sheva to Chevron, which in Israel, Be'er-sheva is more to the south, which is close to in the Negev. And Chevron is more centered in Israel. So he's going from this location, from Be'er-sheva to Chevron. Why is Sarah in Chevron? Why is Sarah in Chevron if they live in Be'er-sheva? So all the commentaries ask this question, and there's many, many different interpretations. Why Sarah is in Chevron? Either because Sarah woke up in the morning of the Akedah, didn't see Avram and Yitzchak, so she figures maybe they went to Chevron because that was their summer home. It's cooler, so she goes to Chevron. That's Cheskuni writes. Or Avram actually sent Sarah to Chevron before he went to the Akedah, like the Netziv writes. But either way, she passes away in Chevron, and Avram comes from Be'er-sheva. Now, where is he coming from Be'er-sheva? Where is he originally from Be'er-sheva? Be'er-sheva was that he came from the Akedah. He came from the binding of Yitzchak. He came from the Akedah. He comes Lisbod l'Sara l'b'chaysa, to cry for her and to eulogize her. L'b'chaysa, incidentally, has a small chaf, a small letter chaf. So Balaturim says because she was old, so the crying was not so intense. The Megala Mukha says actually the opposite, because Avram wanted her to live another 20 years, so she'd be 147. Her years would correspond to the chapters of Psalms. But the real question is, Avram is coming from the Akedah. That's really what the Torah is saying. He's coming from the place of the Akedah. He's coming from the binding of Isaac, from the binding of Yitzchak. Which means, existentially, he's coming from that place. Where is Yitzchak? This is the real question. Avram is the husband, and he's coming from the Akedah to be with his wife, who just passed away, and to bury her, and to cry for her, etc. But where is Yitzchak? Where is Yitzchak? So, our sages tell us, because I'll tell us in different midrashim, either Yitzchak is in the yeshiva Shem Ve'ever, he's sitting and learning. Either Yitzchak is in Gan Eden, he's in paradise. The Alshach says maybe that Yitzchak was injured on the Akedah, so he's going to be healed. But it's a real question. The question is more, the depth of the question is, why isn't he come? Let's say, okay, so he's in yeshiva. So let him come to his mother passed away. It's a mitzvah to go kibbutz v'em, to honor his mother. He has to be there for burial. And he's in Gan Eden, so let him come from a Gan Eden. What does it mean? Why doesn't he show up to his mother's funeral? Why is he not mentioned in his mother's funeral? It's a very, very puzzling question. Rabbeinu Yonah, one of the great sages in the 1300s, Rabbeinu Yonah of Gerona, writes on Masechtas Avos and Ethics of Our Fathers, and Rabbeinu Yonah writes that we know that there are 10 nisyonos, that Avraham Avinu had 10 challenges. The first of the challenge was Lech Lecha, leave your father's home, your place of your birth, and go journey. What's the 10th nisayon? What's the peak, the highest nisayon? So, based on the Gemara in Sanhedrin, in the last chapter of Sanhedrin, the Gemara says that it seems that the highest level in the sign was Shleit Yemar. That you shouldn't say there was nothing in the first nine challenges. The highest Nisayan was the Akedah. To offer to offer your child in the Akedah, that was the highest level, that was the biggest challenge. But Rabbi Yonah writes something else. Rabbi Yonah writes that the 10th Nisayan, the 10th challenge of Avram, and the highest challenge is this story, that he came to cry for his wife, and he buried his wife, and he bought a plot for his wife, and he bought Parsha Pela. This story of the burial of Sarah was the 10th Nisayan. So we have to understand, what does it mean? Why is this the 10th Nisayan? Why is this the 10th challenge and the highest challenge? So we have two questions here, maybe they're related to each other. Why is Yitzchak a no-show at his mother's own funeral? And why is this the Nisayan? Why is this the highest challenge for Avram? So we have to go back to the beginning. The beginning is, Hashem tells Avram, Lech lecha ma'aretzecha, leave your land. Now the word lech lecha is very puzzling. What is lech lecha? Lech means to go. Lecha, what does lecha mean? So Rashi brings down in the name of the Medrash, lecha means la'nascha l'tavascha, means for your own pleasure, for your own benefit. Or lecha means to go, like the Zohar says, go to yourself. Or the Batichra says lech lecha means go by yourself. But the word lecha is anyway, it's a puzzling word. What does it mean? So in Tikkun Zohar, the Zohar writes that lecha in numeric value is 50. Lamed is 30, chaf is 20, so the numeric value of lecha is 50. Avram lech lecha. Hashem tells Avram lech lecha, go lecha. What does this mean? You should go to the level of 50. What's 50? So Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The passage, the verse that we say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Here, Israel, Hashem is one. That has 25 letters. Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusei Lo Levad, blessed you forever, in short, has 24 letters. Says the Zohar that there'll come a time when Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusei Lo Levad, the response that we say to Shema Yisrael, will be 25 letters. It won't be just Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusei, but it'll add a Vav, and it'll say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, U Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusei Lo Levad. That's what the Zohar says. What does this mean? So we know Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad means Hashem is one, means absolute monotheism. What does absolute monotheism mean? It doesn't mean only that there's one God, that Hashem is Echad. It means that there's only God. Hashem Echad means there's nothing else besides Hashem. Which conceptually means that the world is Ayin, is nothing, and the only real existence is Hashem. So Ayin, Lamata Ayin, Lamayla Yesh. Lamata means below, which means our creation is Ayin, is nothingness, emptiness, is void of all things, has no real substance, and the only substance, the only real thing in the world is Hashem. That's Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That's called, in the language of the Zohar, it's called Yechuda Ilah, higher unity. Echad, it's one. Absence of every single thing, only oneness of Hashem. Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusei Lo Levad means that Hashem's presence, the light of Hashem, permeates creation for eternity, forever, which means that there is a world, there's this time, and this time is L'Olam, is forever, which means it's the expression of Hashem's presence within this world, within the expression of Yesh, of existence. So again, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad means nothing exists besides Hashem. Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusei Lo Levad, which is the response, means I exist because I was created by Hashem. But I exist. So the world exists or doesn't exist. From the perspective of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, there is no existence. Existence is only God, only Hashem. From the perspective of Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusei Lo Levad, the world does exist, and the world was created by a creator. So Yesh, which is called existence, exists, and it's connected to the Ayin, which is conceptually something that's beyond us, which is the creator. These are the two perspectives. This is the way our consciousness functions in the world that we know today. And it's an either-or question. Either it's Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, or it's one and there's no existence, or it exists. Or it is, or it isn't. Says the Zohar is saying something very complex and paradoxical. There will come a time that Baruch Shem Kavod Machus Eloheinu Vod would not be the lower response of Shema Yisrael, will not be 24, but it will be Uvarach Shem. Uvarach Shem means that it will also be 25. That Das Elyon and Das Tachten, the higher unity and the lower unity, will both be understood to be a full expression. Both true. Kel Deus Hashem, they're both true. Both the perspective of Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem. Not that one is lower than the next. I'm not explaining this fully, but this is what we have to understand. So there are three perspectives. One is existence does not exist. That's step one. The second one, not step one, this is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is existence does exist and it's connected to a creator. The third one is that it exists and doesn't exist simultaneously. To phrase it a little different, one is that the world is a Yesh existence, created by an Ayin, which is infinity, the Ein Sof, the infinite light. And it's called Ayin, it's called nothingness because it's beyond our perception. That's one perspective. That's Yesh, existence. The other higher paradigm is that the world is called Ayin, it's nothing. Exists, doesn't exist. It's empty, there's no form, there's no existence. And the higher level is that the ultimate existence of the Creator is expressed in existence. It's Yesh Amiti. And I'll explain a little bit deeper how this actually is practically and what this actually means. We have to go back last week's Parsha, last week's portion, to this show you something, and we'll see how this is understood. Last week's story portion, in the beginning of the Parsha, says that Avram, the Parsha opens up that Vayerel Hashem be'olanim amrei. Avram is Hashem appears to him, or it appears to him, like the Avraham writes, in the Olanim Amrei, which means that the revelation is completely to his essence. Who Yoshe Pesach Oil, and he's sitting on the door. He's sitting by the door, by the opening of the door. And then the verse says like this: he lifts up his eyes, Vayar, and he sees. And what does he see? And there are three men standing above him. So let's use the imagery very deeply. He's sitting by his door, which means he's in a state of hisyashvus, settled, stillness, sitting. He lifts up his eyes and he sees. What does he see? That there are three people standing. Nitzavim alav. The standing means that there's no movement. Itnua, there's no movement. So he's in a state of no movement because he's sitting. And when he sees, he sees that these three people are standing. Who are these three people? Who are these three people? So we know later from the story, these are three malachim, these are three angels. Now angels are the opposite of sitting, of standing. We know that the chayes is zartz v'shoiv, that the angels are constantly moving. And if you go later to Parshas Vayetze, Pasuk Chav Ches, Peir Chav Ches in Peis, when the verse talks about the dream of Yaakov, of Jacob, the Torah tells us that he's having a dream, and he has a dream. He sees a ladder. The ladder it's planted on the ground, and its head and its peak reaches the heavens. And Malach Elokim Olam Yardim, and he sees that the angels are moving back and forth, because the concept of an angel, like the concept of Chayes, of the Chiyas of the world, the energy of the world, is that it's in a constant state of Ratzav Shev, returning and going back. They're Olam Yardim, they're moving back and forth. V'nei Hashem nitzav alav. And then he sees that Hashem, on top of the movement of the angels, he sees that Hashem is standing still. Which means that stillness is the opposite of this world. What is the definition of reality, of physical reality? How do we define creation, physical reality? Definition of creation, because it's a creation, means that there's a beginning and there's an end, there's a middle. So definition of creation is that there's a movement, there's progress. It's moving. There's a yesterday, there's a today, and there's a tomorrow. That's one way, the way we define creation. The life force that's coming into this world is also Bechinas Chayei Sarah. The Chayei is coming down into this world, is a constant state of giving and returning, going back and returning. Movement is a definition of the world, because movement is, everything in this world is moving. That's the definition of the world, of existence, is that it's moving and constantly changing. So Olam Yardim and movement and Tnua is inherent to creation. The basic building blocks of creation, what the Rishonim and Sefer Yetzirah call the Yisodos, the foundations of the world, is Eish, Ruach, Mayim. These are moving things. This is the world of Tnua, the world of movement. And here, Avram is sitting by the tent, and he sees that the angels are actually standing. Then it says, Vayar, again, and he sees, but he just said it saw. It says, Vayisayin, he lifts up his eyes, and he sees, and there's 3 angels standing on top of him. Okay, so he saw the angels. Then it says again, Vayar, he sees again. And now, what's the second seeing? So Rashi says he sees means he sees, he understands. But the truth is, and a pshat, on a deeper level, what's the seeing? He already saw. He saw that there's shlosh enough and so. He sees that there are already 3 people standing. But then it says, Vayar's across him, then he sees, and he runs after them. Before, they're standing on top of him, which means that tzavim means there's no movement. And now he's running. Where's he running to? If they're right on top of him, where's he running? It doesn't make any sense. If he saw them as standing right on top of him, which means everything is still, so why all of a sudden he's running towards them? They're standing right on top of him. And we see clear that also the Torah is making a distinction between standing and running. There's nitzavim and there's vayar. It's this standing and running. And this is actually what's happening now to Avram, is a transformation of Avram as a person. In the previous portion before Vayera, he experiences the milah. He experiences the bris, the covenant, circumcision. Which means Avram reaches a point which we'll call Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. He reaches a point of the recognition of the absolute oneness of Hashem. We're in everything and everything. Therefore, how does it express? It's expressed in him circumcising himself. That even his body is a Merkava. Even his body is completely unified with the Creator, and his Metzias, his existence, his Yeshes, ceases to be. So when his Yesh, his expression in this world, his manifestation in this world ceases to be, how does he perceive the world? He starts to perceive the world as still. He enters into a place of Ayin, of emptiness, of nothingness, and therefore everything ceases to be. It doesn't mean that things are no longer moving, but to him they're no longer moving. He sees stillness. A person reaches that state. Again, the first state is you're completely involved in this world, completely connected to the drama and to the life of this world, this constant movement, this constant change, and one day you're happy, and one day you're sad, and one day this happens to you and makes you happy, and the next day this happens to you and you feel sad, and you're constantly in different states. And there's different colors and different imagery and different impressions and different sounds and different tastes. And you're in the fullness of this creation. That's step number 1. And everyone's born in this way. This is the way we're born. This is the expression of Baruch Shem Kvei Mechus Levad. That Hashem's presence is within the creation. Hashem created us in this way. And this is the world that we live in. We have to navigate in this 4-dimensional universe. And this is the way we navigate in this world. Through the experience of this world. Then a person has a higher epiphany, a higher level of understanding, and they reach a level of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. When a person says Shema Yisrael, this passage, when a person says it during prayer, during davening, so the Shalom Kadosh writes, you actually have to imagine yourself as if you're giving your life over to Hashem, Mesiras Nefesh, completely let go of everything. What does it mean, let go of everything? Because you're not letting go of everything, you still have your full life, and you don't actually physically have to give over your life. It means that you let go of all the yeshes of existence. It doesn't matter to you at this point if you're eating something that you really enjoy or something you don't enjoy completely. It doesn't matter to you whether the sun is shining or it's raining outside. What happens externally in the world doesn't really matter to you. You're in a place of ayin, and also in a place what the Mukabalim call hishtavus. You're in a place of equanimity. And it doesn't matter to you anymore, anything. Everything looks still. You're in a perfect place of harmony with yourself. You're in perfect state of harmony of dvekas with Hashem in a state of ayin, and the world stops functioning in a normal state. Which means the world goes on, everything's happening the way it always happens. but you're no longer caught up in the drama of this universe. You're in a place of Ayin, and in that place of Ayin, of emptiness, there's no longer any expressions of tzura, of form, and you're totally and always in a perfect state. This is what Avram reaches on the first level. Vayar, he lifts up his eyes, he sees that even angels, which the angels is the strongest definition of Chayei Sarah, that it's movement, even movement is still. It's not that there's no movement, but the movement to him is still. This is level number 2. Then he lifts up his eyes and he sees even something deeper. Vayar is across him. He lifts up his eyes and he sees the yichud, the unification between Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem. He said the yichud between Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem is the level of 50. 50 is when it's Baruch Shem and Baruch Shem, which means that he recognizes that he has to go back into this world, not because he's reactive to the world that's around him, and not because he's caught up into the drama of this world, but he's boicha b'shir zimmer. He's choosing to be back into this world. Why? Because that's what Hashem wants from him. The first level is you're stuck in this world. And this is your reality. And you're trying to make sense out of this world. And you're trying also maybe to connect with Hashem. That's Baruch Shem. The higher level is that nothing exists anymore. So it's all the same. It doesn't matter. This is the Akedah. That's Mesiras Nefesh of the Akedah. That's the going up of the Akedah. That he can offer his only child. On the Akedah is the level of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That's the Akedah. Doesn't matter. Life, death. There's no life, there's no death. Everything's all the same. That's when Avram is going to the Akedah, he's about to get to the place of the Akedah, what does he say? Vani vanar necha ad koi. Me and the lad will go until koi. What is koi? Chaf He, 25. He says that we're going to get to the Akedah. We're going to go to the point of the 25, which is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. We're going to get to the top of the mountain. Nechat koi. But then Avram adds something, and he says, "V'nishtachem v'nishuv aleichem," and then we're going to prostrate ourselves and we're going to return. He didn't know what he was saying consciously, but he said prophecy. Why? Because Avram understood that the point of Lech Lecha, at the beginning of the journey, was not to get to the top of the mountain to sacrifice all of life. But he understood that the point of the journey was to actually return back into this world again. He has to get to the point of total Mesiras Nefesh, total self-sacrifice, to the point of Ayin, where nothing matters anymore, and from the place that nothing matters, to choose that things should matter again. This is what Vayar is the Krossam. This is what the Torah is saying. The first Vayar is Ayin. The first Vayar is when he sees, he sees everything is still, everything is present, nothing's moving. Then Vayar, he sees a higher level of seeing, and then Vayar it's across him. He goes and he feeds his guests. He does a Chnasa Sarchim. He actually goes and feeds his the people that need food. And in this estimation, at least he thinks they're still maybe humans, but he's going to feed them. And he's doing Gedoyla Chnasa Sarchim, which means it's greater to do Achnasa Sarchim to bring in the guests, even though the presence of the Shechina level is when everything's Ayin. You're in a state of dveikus, a state of unity with Hashem, and the world stops. By Yartzakosim, he goes down and he goes to run after them. So he enters the world of Ritza, of Aretz. Aretz, the word Eretz, earth, comes from the word Ratz, running, movement. He goes back into the world of movement. So he starts from the world of movement, he enters the world of stillness, and then returns by choice to the world of movement, because that's what the Kavanah, that's the intention of creation. That's what Hashem told him at the beginning of his journey. Lech Lecha, reach the 50th level, not the 49th. Now we can understand where Yitzchak is, and what the Torah is telling us. And why the Nisayan is the highest Nisayan. This is the 10th Nisayan. This is the 10th challenge of Avram. The reason why it's the 10th challenge of Avram, because Vani Vanar Necha Koi, we should get to the top of the mountain, which is the 9th Nisayan of Avram, is to get to the 49th level. To get to the level, which Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, 25. Ad Koi, to the expiration of self. I don't exist. My child doesn't exist. Nothing exists. It's only you. And it doesn't matter. Life, death, good food, bad food, drama, joy, music, color, nothing matters to me. Everything's Ayin. So whatever you want from me. That's the 9th level of Nisayan. That's the 9th challenge. The 10th challenge is Avram to come back down come back. Be'er Sheva, Avram comes. Vayove Avram, Avram's coming. What does it mean coming? He's coming down the mountain. He's coming down from the place of Ad Koi. He's coming down to recognize that his wife passed away. And that's real. Why is it real? Because Hashem created it. And Hashem wants it to be real. And Hashem wants you to come when a person passes away. Certainly your wife. Hashem wants you to come and to cry for her. And to wail for her. And to do a hesped for her. And to bury her. That's a mitzvah. So he comes back from the top of the mountain. And he comes back into life, into the world. And that's fascinatingly something very interesting that happens. Is that from after the Akedah, Hashem doesn't talk to Avram anymore. There's no longer a conversation that God has with Avram any longer. Why? Why doesn't Hashem have a conversation with Avram anymore? Because Avram got it. There's no longer a conversation. Means Hashem is telling you, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do the other thing. Lech lecha, go here, do this, come here. There's nothing anymore to do. He got it. And what is Avram occupied in this whole Parsha? To marry off his children. To bury his wife, to marry his children. He enters back into this world from a place of choice. And now we can understand where Yitzchak is. When Chazal tell us that Yitzchak was in Gan Eden, or he was in paradise, or he was in the Yeshiva Sheva Ever, it means that Yitzchak didn't yet come down the mountain. Yitzchak was still in the level of Ad Koi. He didn't yet complete his journey. He was still in the place of Ayin. And the story with Avram is what Avram says. We see that Eliezer says, we're going to make a chesed with Adoni, you're going to do a kindness with my master to bring him a wife. The whole process of this, the bringing of a wife to Yitzchak, was he shouldn't be l'suach l'sada, that he was alone in the fields, which is a level of Yitzchak, which is dveikus and ayin, and to bring him back into this world and back into the physical reality. And that's what Rivka accomplishes in this week's Parsha. So this is a little bit of insight to what is going on a little bit in the Parsha of Chayei Sarah.